Welcome.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Alan. And yes, it's so amazing to be in community this way and activating each other. No matter where we're all at on our journeys, it's so clear that every time we come together in these spaces, we're all activating each other in new ways. And we're just continuing to raise the vibe and raise the collective energy. And I'm just so thrilled and grateful to be here. Neil, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let's get going. So thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here. It's so good again to be here in community with you. Let me get this presenting. Okay. So today I want to share a little bit about that awakening journey with you and some new layers to my identity and my soul exploration that have been taking place. And we'll also do a little manifestation work together. I love what Sheila was talking about around, creating our reality and learning to manifest. That's a lot of what I teach about and offer on Star Family Wisdom. I'm passionate about creating our reality, and over the last 5 years have had a significant amount of information downloaded and connection with my star family that has facilitated me bringing the information to you that we offer at Star Family Wisdom. So I'm excited to participate in that process with you today. When we come together in groups, our energy and manifestation process is so much more powerful. So we'll build on what Neil started at the beginning by getting us coherent together. So like Sheila said, I was a leader at Whole Foods Market for many years and really specialized in transformation and change, which is kind of ironic given what I'm doing now, leading people through personal change and evolution, but also leading people through the larger planetary evolution that is taking place. I'm also an ET contactee, but a former atheist. So I was atheist for the first 30 years of my life while I was growing up in Whole Foods and evolving my career there. So imagine my shock at the age of 29 and 30 when I had a big spiritual awakening and got contacted by ETs. So fast forward 5 years and here we are together. So I'm now an energy medicine practitioner. I engage in shamanic initiation and help people through that process. And like I said, teach about manifestation and spiritual law and how we can navigate our personal healing journeys. So just a little bit about my experience, because I hope this, helps validate for some of you watching your personal experiences. And, I had some, what I now know to be advanced abilities at a young age, but I kind of dismissed it. I think a lot of us do, when we're early on our journeys, we don't acknowledge our gifts. We don't acknowledge what is possible in our reality. And so, I became a global vice president at the age of 30, which is not exactly normal. I also did not graduate college. So there, were symptoms of my ET contact, symptoms of my soul's nature that were showing up in my early life. But it wasn't until I had the big awakening experience in 2017 where I started having more spontaneous past life visions. I started seeing the future and having more precognizant episodes. I started having more telepathic and psychic experiences with people. And again, coming from an atheist background, I had never been raised in the spiritual community. I was raised to believe these things weren't true. So it took a lot of my own research and validation to get to the point, where I feel very confident in what I'm sharing here today. And as my awakening progressed, I started having a lot of strange synchronicities and emotional releases when I was reading about ETs or the UFO or abduction phenomena. And I knew enough about the science of the mind at the time to know that when we have those sorts of spontaneous trigger moments or emotional releases, we might have some suppressed memories that are being activated that want to come out. So when that happened, it was clear to me that I had something suppressed related to ETs. And I'd always felt a little lost, even though I was progressing in my career and successful in that way. I was a little depressed, a little lost, didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing here. And so when those emotional releases started to happen, I got a little scared, because a lot of us learn about ET contact and our star origins, usually by, understanding the abduction phenomena first. So I got a little nervous about what, my experience was and what memories I might access. I then started having telepathic messages arrive, which I didn't understand where they were coming from initially. Fast forward to my first regression, I got clarity on where those messages were coming from, but they were helpful and they were guiding me in ways that were attempting to shift my consciousness and help me see truth, help me offer forgiveness, help me find acceptance, help me shift from a state of separation and maybe anger to a state of acceptance and forgiveness. And that's a beautiful thing. So I was trusting these messages, right? They weren't harmful, they weren't scary, but I didn't know where they were coming from. And then in 2020, I got contacted by Bashar. So I won't go into all the detail. You can learn about that on our podcast and on our YouTube channel if you want more information there. But long story short, all of that led to me going through my first regression and meeting my star family for the first time. So I learned that those telepathic messages were primarily coming from the mantis beings, and I am primarily in contact with the mantis beings in this life. They are the beings who have visited me and taken me physically. And I've had past lives in a lot of advanced civilizations. Like many of you, our souls have had so many experiences that throughout the journey of this lifetime, we might be able to access more memories of. So we're all pulling from these different skills and abilities and memories that we carry with us from these other lifetimes and from these other civilizations. So I started to learn about my current mission during that regression, and the mantis beings spoke through me and they gave me direction to leave Whole Foods and start Star Family Wisdom. So that's what I did. And I learned that I am here incarnating with two souls from home. So two souls from my soul group. We come into our incarnations usually with members of our soul group, but some of my soul group, most of my soul group are back on a ship, which helps facilitate that telepathic contact. And I've had lives in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, like many of you, supporting the ET agenda of teaching spiritual law and cosmic law on Earth. And around the time of that regression, I got a galactic astrology reading from Graham Forskett, which I highly recommend. He's super advanced in his understanding of the geometry of space-time and how our soul may connect with different star systems. So I learned that I had a connection with Aldebaran and the Rigel star systems at that time, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. So this year, the journey of my soul exploration has gone deeper. And when we're on the healing path and we're really doing the deep inner exploration and excavation and shadow work, we get the opportunity to learn even more about who we are and the journey of our soul. And we get to access more memories. So I had the pleasure of working with Barbara Lamb this year. We did a couple of episodes with her on the podcast. Check that out if you haven't yet. She talks about some of her personal ET contact experiences, which we don't get to hear too much of from Barbara. So definitely check that out. But I also did a second regression with her. And in that regression, I wanted to explore an aspect of my childhood that I had some questions about. And in my first regression, I had on the list of things to explore a question about a recurring dream that I had had as a child. And the therapist never explored that question in the first regression. And I now understand why. When we are on this journey of evolving and expanding our consciousness, we're not always quite ready for certain pieces of information at certain times. And it requires further evolution for us to get to the point where we can even integrate all aspects of that information in a way that's healthy for us. So this year, I worked with Barbara to access that memory of that dream. And that recurring dream that I had as a child happened between the ages of 4 and 5. And it was of a red rose in space. And this was the same dream over and over and over. And it ended the same way every single time. And I've had some suspicion that maybe that wasn't just a dream. And so we went back to that time in my childhood and that regression. And that was not just a dream. There was a lot more going on there. That was a screen memory from childhood ET contact. And it was a screen memory of home. And so you remember I said that I had learned about a connection with the Aldebaran star system. Well, the Aldebaran star is a red giant star, and it's also known as a rose star. And I learned about that the day after the regression with Barbara. So after this regression, it unlocked so many more memories that I am still in the process of integrating and downloading and actually turning into some new material and courses for Star Family Wisdom. That in this regression, I got to see and experience some of that contact with the ET beings when I was a child. And long story short, in that scenario, when I was being contacted, I was being taken. I don't use the phrase abduction because I don't feel like that's what happened to me. At this point in my journey, feel like I was having an interaction with members of my family, but also souls with whom I had a mission contract. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. So in this scenario where I was taken from my home as a child during the ages of 4 and 5, most of those instances involved me going to a ship, me being with 4 or 5 different beings, one of whom was a mantis. And so I saw the mantis on my left, and then the others were grays who were administering more of the, let's call it medical procedures that were happening. And the mantis being was one of the beings from home, one of the beings from the civilization that I have been a part of. And so in accessing that memory, I learned that I am indeed a hybrid ET human, and some of what was going on during that. Hey, Neil, there's some, I think, sound coming through your screen, maybe. Okay, I think we're good. So I learned that I am indeed a hybrid ET human, and that there was an agreement to support some genetic modifications in this life as I grew up on Earth. And you know, I want to pause here and say we're all hybrids, right? Like no one talking today is special for any reason. We're all hybrids as humans, and our hybridization is very ancient. We are all a product of genetic modification and integration between many galactic races. And even the level of diversity that we see on Earth is a symptom of the diversity we see in the universe and how that diversity was brought to Earth. So we're all hybrids, and that hybridization program has been happening for a really, really long time. And there happens to be some modern day hybridization that's also taking place. So long story short, I agreed, to come into this life and support this process of being part of the program, of giving my genetics, receiving some genetic modification. And I also learned that my soul is a traveling soul. So the mantis civilization that I came from is a civilization I'm returning to after this incarnation. So this is kind of a double incarnation, if you want to think of it that way. Most of the time when we come into a body, we live that life, and then we go back to the spirit realm. Then we incarnate in another body in whatever civilization, we choose. But some of the more advanced civilizations that are operating in higher dimensions have the ability to step down their consciousness or send their consciousness to the body of a being in a lower dimension or in a different place. And so that is what has happened. I went through the normal incarnation cycle of coming in as a child and growing up. But when my soul leaves this body, I'm going back to that civilization. And through all of this unlocking of new layers of consciousness, I also have started to remember some of our past star race Earth interactions and connections. And these are my specific experiences in this history. There have been many periods of star race interaction on Earth. We teach about that on the Star Family Wisdom site and have some podcast episodes about it. But specifically for my soul, post-Atlantis, after the flood, around the years 6,000, 7,000 BC, there was a mission for star race beings to come to Earth to help rebuild the spiritual centers. So while humanity survived the flood, we know this, and humanity spread out and began to rebuild, and in some pockets in more sophisticated ways than in other pockets on Earth. There was this effort to kind of reboot and restart some of the mystery schools and mystery traditions and ways of working in temple culture, ways of working in some of the more sacred sites on Earth and some of the more energetically potent sites on Earth, for both the benefit of the star races and humans. So that was a period of heavy interaction between humans and star races. And I lived as a human after that on Earth around the time of 3500 BC, which is right before some of the very earliest dynasties of Egypt that we have written record of. So prior to those very early dynasties in Egypt, we had a few thousand-year period there where there was heightened, sophisticated spiritual living and cosmic living happening on Earth. And then, as we know from the cycle of the yugas, the precession of the equinox, the cycle of energy and time that exists on Earth, we slowly descended into a period of forgetfulness and into a period of darkness. And the star races were no longer able to be on Earth with us. We were left to continue our evolution until the time was right for them to rejoin us. And the time is almost here. And then I spent some time after that in ancient Greece as a high priestess, preserving the mystery traditions and the teachings of the star races. So it's my understanding and my belief that all of our mystery traditions and spiritual wisdom on Earth stems from our ancient contact with the star races. So there's been many periods of integrating that knowledge, integrating that wisdom, and periods of losing it, and then periods of reintegrating it, which we are doing now, which is amazing, and what we're doing here together. So I know this is something many of you already know, but for those who don't, how does contact occur? What are all the ways in which this is happening? Sometimes it's just telepathic. Sometimes we're just getting downloads. We're just getting information. We're just getting memories unlocked that are going to help us on our journey. We might be getting guidance and support from our star family as we're, progressing on our specific, unique soul mission. We might be getting energetic contact. We might be getting some system upgrades. We might be getting some kind of distant remote healing energetically as needed for the mission. The star races will not interfere if there is a karmic issue. So for instance, there have been times, when I've had a lesson I need to learn, and I have to learn that lesson. They're not going, to fix something for me if it's my karmic lesson to learn, right? So even though we have a huge support team at our disposal that we can call in, that we can work with, we also have our own lessons that we're meant to learn, that we're meant to integrate in this life. And many of you are here for that work in this life. We're transitioning eras. And when we transition eras, there's a big completion process that occurs. And that completion process is essentially the healing and completion of all of the karma from that era. So from all of the lives you may have lived on Earth during this era in human history or previous eras, we're in this process right now of doing big healing work around all of that so we can cleanly transition eras and then in our next life, not repeat those same mistakes. So this is a huge, huge time where we all need to be really tuned in to what are those lessons? What am I still carrying, as a wound or as a past life trauma or a trauma from this life? And how can I rise above that? How can I transcend those things? So the star races will support us energetically, but we've still got our own work to do. And then, of course, they are making contact physically. And I'm an example of that. I have good evidence, to show that has happened. And that, in a lot of ways, the physical contact, while, there has been some traumatic, instance of that for a lot of humans. And I think that's evolving now, that the star races have gotten some coaching, on how to work with us and how to do that in a gentler way. In a lot of cases, this physical contact, if it's not specifically a part of the hybrid program, it's just about checking the body, and checking the evolution of the human biology system, right? Because there are a lot of factors on Earth, environmentally, mentally, that are affecting our bodies. And the ETs, who have somewhat of a responsibility for the evolution of life on Earth, let's call it, are studying us, right? They're studying our evolution to ensure that we can evolve properly as we go forward. And that's part of what the hybrid program is about. It's about making subtle shifts and upgrades that allow the genetic composition of humans to evolve in more easeful ways, right? So we have been susceptible to a lot of the darker aspects of the human experience. And while we live in a universe that's programmed for duality, and both are true, right? We can't have the light without the dark. We also have a tendency as humans to, slide into the darker aspects of how we operate. And some of that just has to do with our genetic makeup and how our brain operates and how our brain gets wired and programmed. And so the ETs have been monitoring that. They have been helping to subtly evolve that in certain humans. And as that happens for some humans, that has this integrative effect with the collective. So why is this happening now? Why are we learning about our star origins and coming together as star seeds? And why are we learning about the hybridization program, both modern and ancient at the same time? It's because we're transitioning eras. It's time to remember the truth. It's time for us to remember our human capabilities and to actually become superhuman and to activate our godlike powers. And it is 100%, 1,000% possible for you to activate dormant DNA that's there. And as you do that deep healing and transformation work, and not just, on an energetic level, like on a psychological level too, like this is holistic mind, body, and energy. We're talking about when we do that work holistically, we are literally turning on new DNA and we are changing the expression of our genes. And that not only changes our physical biology, but it helps us access new information. It helps us access memories. It helps us connect the dots on aspects of our reality that allow us to live a much more beautiful human experience. So you're here to evolve into the new human. And I know, Mary tomorrow is probably going to talk about the new human and what she's learned in her research. And, what we do at Star Family Wisdom is help you embody that, help you do that, like help you in the process with the tools and the practices and the teachings that you can integrate and embody in a practical way, in a way that brings this to life in your life. And then you learn the spiritual laws of the universe and you live by them. And we need to, as I said, need to raise our vibe, right? And clear heavy energies from our field and clear those past life wounds and those patterns that we've been carrying for ages. And we'll talk about this in the conference in April, but we've got to balance our masculine and feminine energies. And this is not a gender thing. This is an energetic thing. We all hold masculine and feminine energies within us, and learning how to balance that is incredibly important for our ability to activate our godlike powers and activate our power of creation. And as Bashar says, follow your passions. Even if it scares you a little, you got to follow your passions. And, a lot of us star seeds forget this really critical component. And I love that, Sheila engages in the shamanic practice that she does, because shamanic practice is not only about connecting with spirit and all of the luminous beings and archetypal energies that we can connect with and that can support us. It's also about reconnecting with nature and the elements and understanding our very primal connection with Mother Earth and nature. And, I think we get so homesick, right? We want to have this connection with the cosmos and the stars, which is beautiful, but we have to remember we're also children of the earth in this lifetime. And that connection with Mother Earth is so, so, so critical. And we've got to release our judgments and our fears and our attachments, and we need to do the work to meet the star races and learn about who they are. Because as we do that work and as we open ourselves through this, sort of environment, we're preparing for open contact, and we'll be some of the first to make that contact when that occurs. So we'll come back to that and talk about that a little bit more if we have some time at the end. But I want to do just a little manifestation work together. So while we're here in circle, in community, and since Neil set us up with such a beautiful heart coherence meditation earlier, and since we're talking about the new earth and becoming the new human, let's do a process together to help facilitate that. So first, I just want to remind you that you're already a master of manifestation. You just have to remember how. You are already creating your reality day in, day out. It's just a matter of becoming even more conscious and aware of how you're doing it and shifting the reality that you're creating. And again, Mother Earth can also help you in your manifestation processes. And we teach about that at Star Family Wisdom as well. And, sometimes we forget to allow ourselves to feel all the feelings. Like we want to be in a place of love and light, and we are, because we're here together. But it's okay to feel the darkness too. Like you've got to feel that and let that move through you sometimes, because this is a process, a deep process of clearing that we're going through in this lifetime on Earth. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel into the darkness sometimes, or to allow ourselves to really honor our true feelings about something, we're going to be blocking our ability to come into wholeness and to manifest in a really, really powerful way. And then we're going to do it together here, but there are so many tools that you can use to access the quantum field, to access a quantum state of possibilities, or a quantum state of being where all possibilities exist, right? Because there are infinite possibilities in the universe. It's just a matter of us connecting with the possibilities that we want to bring into the physical, releasing some attachment, right? Releasing ego around those desires, and then allowing the universe to just move us in the direction of that new possibility, and allowing the universe to present the right people and experiences and opportunities that we can say yes to, that then help us manifest that ideal reality. So we're going to do a little sacred geometry meditation before we do our manifestation work together. And so I want to just very briefly give a plug for sacred geometry and why you should be using it. If you haven't yet, you can sign up for a free webinar on our website about sacred geometry and learn even more about it. And you can find some tools on our website as well about sacred geometry. Our instructor, Nadi Hanna, you might know her. Hi, Nadi. She teaches sacred geometry drawing courses that really help you access a higher state of consciousness. So when we use sacred geometry, it synchronizes our brain hemispheres and it helps us access that 0 point energy, the quantum field state, which then helps us access the higher dimensions, which helps us access higher intelligence, or insert intentions into the field, or rewire our neural networks, or all of the above, which helps us restore our energy field and shift it, and ultimately return our system to a state of balance. So geometry as a representation of the fundamental structure of space-time, which your energy field is also supposed to mimic, can help bring alignment between the universal field, the universal mind, and your field and your mind. So it's really about creating harmony and creating coherence, and can help us expand. And it can help us as we're doing our meditation work. If you're a person that has struggled with meditation, because it's not easy when you're getting started and you're attempting to really quiet the mind. It takes work. It's called a practice for a reason. Sacred geometry can help. Sacred geometry can help get you into that state of brain hemisphere synchronization much quicker, much easier. So it's kind of a fast track, like a cheat, a cheat to the meditation system. So I highly recommend using sacred geometry in a lot of different ways. And again, when you draw it, it's kind of like taking the process to a whole new level. So what we're going to do next is we're going to just take a moment and do a little sacred geometry meditation. And this is the Sri Yantra. And again, Nadi Hanna, our instructor, can tell you all about the sacred geometry shapes and structures, but the Sri Yantra is really about creation. And the Sri Yantra prioritizes the feminine energy of creation. And no matter how we identify in this life, we utilize the feminine energy to create. So we're just going to take a moment and connect with our breath. And just allow our eyes to gaze at the geometry. Allowing any tension in the body to move down and out to Mother Earth, allowing her to receive anything that's heavy. Allowing her to take from you anything that is not serving your highest good. And breathing in, imagining light streaming into your body, circulating through your whole system. Synchronizing with the flow of universal energy, coming into a state of oneness with the universe, with each other. Remembering that we are the universe. We are God. You are God. And now I want you to think of 3 intentions that you can set. 1 for the healing of Mother Earth and all of her children, in whatever way feels best to you. Secondly, for your family and community, maybe for this community here. And then thirdly, for yourself, what you're manifesting right now. And when you're ready, I'm going to hold up a stick to the camera, and I want you to blow those intentions into this stick. And my intention is for all of your intentions to manifest with ease, grace, and flow. For all of you to walk with protection. And for you to be able to create your heaven on earth. And now I'm going to place this stick in the fire, in a candle. And we do that to help alchemize the energy. We just allow it to burn. And you can think of the stick, any stick you find in nature. You can do this process yourself. You can think of the stick as holding bundles of light, spirals of light from the sun, right? Light pours in to our atmosphere and helps grow the plants. The plants are absorbing that light. And all of the light that that tree has ever been exposed to is wound up in that stick. And then we're putting our energy into that stick as well. And then with the element of fire, we are sending that energy into the quantum field. So this is a process you can do to release energy that no longer serves you, And it's a process you can do to set intentions and to send energy into the quantum field, which we're doing today on the new moon, which is particularly potent. So thank you for doing that process together. And again, when we come together in groups, our ability to manifest and create is so much more powerful than when we're doing it by ourselves. And then if you want to take your manifestation process further, just a quick plug, we've got some great manifestation resources for you at Star Family Wisdom. You can learn all about creating spiritual protection, raising your vibe. We have a challenge and a guide and a Masters of Manifestation course that gives you so many amazing tools and practices that you can use on your own, and some moon ceremony work as well. Okay, so let's continue to talk about transitioning to the new Earth, and we'll wrap up soon, so we have time for questions. Sheila, keep me on track if I run out of time. Okay, so many of you know at this point, right? Cat's out of the bag. We're not alone, but we never have been. We've been interacting with ETs forever. We just forgot. And there was a concerted effort in modern times to keep us forgetting. So here we are, the disclosure right now. And again, we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. We're transitioning eras, and it's time for this massive remembrance process to occur. And the window for open contact begins next year. You know, I think it's so interesting. Alan was talking about Linda and the conference next year, and what we're starting to hear or maybe get some insight about related to government disclosure, because we know from our ET friends, they have said that the window starts next year. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have ships, showing up in the sky, but more and more instances of contact will start occurring, and there could be an event at some point in the next few years. So it's time for us to get ready. And the way we do that is raising our vibration. So we know that many of the ET beings are operating at a higher dimensional frequency than we are, and they can really overwhelm us, even for, someone who is doing the work and raising their vibe. It takes time to even be in a place where your nervous system, your mind can handle integrating, seeing them. And I'm just now getting to a point where I'm able to integrate, starting to see them. So as we're doing that work, we're preparing and moving through the dimensional shift, because Earth is shifting dimensions. We're shifting our positioning within the galaxy, which means that we're being exposed to different energy all of the time now, which is facilitating an upgrade process. This, again, is similar to what we talked about around the cycle of the yugas, right? We're moving into an ascending part of the cycle now, and our positioning within the galaxy is such that we're ripe for a dimensional shift. And so it is my understanding and belief that this doesn't mean we are magically going to become light beings tomorrow, and there's going to be a big event that causes that to happen. Evolution is a much slower process than that. So this is a gradual change that is occurring, but it's going to be an easier change for you if you engage in all of the things we've been talking about. And star races have historically showed up after difficult periods. So, again, we talked about the balance of light and dark, and, I would be doing a disservice if I didn't say, there's a lot of challenging stuff on Earth right now. It's a little scary out there at times, right? And I think a lot of us, get caught in this place of worry about that, right? And worry about, some of the darker aspects of our civilization. And while all those challenges exist, humanity is getting an opportunity to face those challenges in a different way than we have in previous civilizations, right? Civilizations have karma too. It's all cyclic. And so we're getting an opportunity here to face some of the same things we faced in previous civilizations. And transitioning eras is tough. And there is usually some breakdown that occurs in that transition. And so this is not, about doomsday or anything, but this is about us moving through those transitions in an easier way. And, I think sometimes there's a little confusion around the dimensional shift and this idea that, are we just going to get picked up and move to a new earth, or all of a sudden, are we just not going to see any of the negativity and, darker aspects of our reality? Well, both are true, right? We can live in a collective reality, and all of us on this call together today are having a slightly different experience of that reality. And it's possible for us to choose an easier path in life. There will still be challenges, but it's possible to choose a higher vibrational path that allows us to experience that reality differently. It doesn't mean we stop engaging with that reality. It doesn't mean we don't work to support the betterment of people who are facing a harder time, but it does mean we have the opportunity to experience this dimensional shift in a different way. So, are we moving to a new earth? Probably not. I think you're going to be building it here. So what we're doing in this work together is preparing for that, right? We're preparing for what the next era of our civilization is going to look like. And, the earth is rebalancing, and there's still some rebalancing that's needed, because she's not totally healthy in all ways, right? And so that will cause us to continue to experience some changes and some challenges, just like we have already been experiencing. But you're resilient. We all are. And that's why we need to focus on those resiliency practices and clearing heavy energy and following our joys and following our passions, because we're here to be on that transition team. You are part of the transition team. And if you have those moments of thinking, oh my God, I can't do this, it's heavy, it's hard, there's a lot, going on out there, you're strong enough for the mission. You showed up here to be here carrying the light, and just you being here is helping with that. And we all have our own unique piece of the puzzle. And it's so easy for us to take on, all of the complexity of this world, and it's not all ours to take on, right? So it's about finding your little piece of the puzzle and contributing in that way, and doing the rest of your work, your clearing and healing work, so that you're having a slightly different experience of this transition that we're going through. Okay, so I'm going to quickly breeze through this. And one thing that I'm, so passionate about teaching and integrating into what we offer at Star Family Wisdom are the spiritual teachings of ETs. And I think, we don't always get a chance to think about all of the spiritual teachings that are contained within what the ETs are delivering us, in terms of the contact scenarios, or being taken or abducted, or in channeling, scenarios like what we receive from Bashar and other galactic channels. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing to pause and reflect on from time to time, and to know that, these are the set of spiritual teachings that we need to be focused on for us to be living in that super high vibrational state, for us to be experiencing that different version of reality, and to be able to create and manifest with ease and flow, and be at a powerful level where reality just rearranges itself for you. So, the ETs teach about the mind and the power of the mind to influence physical reality. And they teach about the oneness and interconnectedness of all of life. And, I love that they use the term source, and they have this understanding of their connection with source that we've kind of forgotten. And they understand that we're all these unique pieces of the whole. And when we can remember ourselves as that unique piece of the whole and as the whole, magic happens. And most of the ETs live in a state of magic and synchronicity, right? That is their natural state of being. And we're just remembering how to return to that. And they teach and bring to us an understanding of the universal geometry and physics that help us understand how to work in the creation process. And we learn about traveling between dimensions, right? And how to access higher dimensions. We learn about how physical matter can materialize and rematerialize. We learn about the nature of duality and balancing those masculine and feminine energies. And we learn about the nature of, reincarnation, of course, and moral codes, right? And spiritual law that is practiced consistently among many civilizations and many races across our universe, and specifically in our galaxy. And they teach about the transformation process and the alchemy process. And again, a lot of the occult wisdom around alchemy and transformation on our planet stems from much more ancient sources from our star races, and ultimately transmuting all of the heaviness we've been carrying and all of the imprints of past life wounds is that transformation process. And then you've heard this probably before, but the ETs have attempted to awaken us, right? That's what's going on with contact, and open contact is just happening, or first contact is happening just a little differently for us than it is other civilizations. Other civilizations have had the ability to have ships arrive in their skies and be willing to accept that because of the state of our consciousness and our civilization, and because of some of the distorted spiritual teachings and distorted historical narrative that has occurred on Earth, that has prevented our star friends from just showing up in that more open way. So we're having to do it in this way, in all of the ways I've been sharing with you about us having these contact experiences, us telepathically receiving information, accessing memories, unlocking new information by going through transformation processes. So it's something that the ETs are, asking us to engage in, right? They want us to be able to unlock more connection with them, but we have to focus on the very earthly things, right, that are our responsibility, like the ecological crisis, like our own healing and transformation. And we now know that there is a whole host of ET civilizations supporting Earth that are just in the wings, waiting to make contact with us when the time is right. And it's through this sort of conference and this work and these gatherings that we learn more and more about each other and where we come from and who these races are and what they are wanting to see on Earth and what they're, hoping for and what their intentions are. And so, I want to wrap up by sharing that while I had a significant amount of fear to move through related to ET contact, related to changing my worldview, it has become very clear to me that in more cases than not, the contact and the hybridization work that is occurring is for our collective highest good, right? And so when we talk about collective highest good and how that is administered or kind of managed, how processes related to these sorts of interactions are managed on a galactic level, if it is for the collective highest good, a situation might be taking place like the hybridization program that doesn't necessarily mean that every single human is going to feel like it's for their personal highest good, right? We've all had different experiences. And so I want to acknowledge that, again, we're all having different experiences of these instances of this program. And it is through that work, again, of really digging deep and looking at where we have potential ego distortion or wounds that are influencing how we are perceiving reality. It's through that work that we can then start to zoom out and see the bigger picture of why certain things are happening the way they're happening. So I know, there's a lot of opinions on these topics, and my personal experience is that the hybridization program that I'm a part of and the ET contact that has happened for me is ultimately for our highest good. And if it's for our highest good, I know that's for my soul's highest good, even if it scares me a little, and even if it forces me to do some deep shadow work. That's ultimately for our highest good. So I'm so appreciative and grateful for all of you for being here today and digging deep on your soul origins and who you are, and being willing to honor your identity if this is your identity too. I do this work for you so that we're not alone in this, and so that we can all come together and share openly in ways that are grounded, in ways that are validated by good science and lots of deep evidence, right, to bring us to these conclusions. So that's always important to me too. And also at Star Family Wisdom, important to us, because while, we engage in all of these conversations, we want to stay grounded, and we want to, really focus on how can we apply all of this information that we're learning and integrate it in a way that is practical, right? In a way that makes things better for all of us. So just very briefly before we wrap up, just a quick introduction. You might know Nadi Hana of Galactic Rose Geometry. She teaches our sacred geometry drawing courses, and Sinead Wellahan is our podcast co-host. You can find us on YouTube, on the podcast apps. And this podcast is growing fast. We've had our very own Alan here on the podcast, which was awesome. You can learn about my regressions on the podcast. We share some clips of the regressions as well on the YouTube channel. And we're interviewing so many amazing people who have had experiences, who are deep in the world of unpacking what we're learning about our galactic origins. And then again, we offer manifestation and mindset support and courses and programs, spiritual awakening practices and support. We love working with moon magic like we did today together. And then we offer some shamanic tools as well. And then I also offer some shamanic healing services and various manifestation coaching or destiny life purpose coaching, if that's something you are interested in. And then, of course, we are all about making contact and helping you make contact and helping you learn who the star races are and why they're here and how you can get to know them yourself. So with that, I think we will wrap up. I do want to let you know we have some amazing freebies. This is not all of them. There's a bunch on the website. So go to the website, sign up for some free goodies. You'll get some extra support from us as well on how to utilize those free tools. And then again, just a little quick look at some of what we offer with our courses. And then for all of you, our Starseed and hybrid friends, I have some discount codes for you to use. So if you want to take advantage of any of our products, you can sign up for the geometry courses for 25% off using geometry. And then Masters Now is the code for 50% off the Masters of Manifestation course and Shamanic Practice course. And use the code STARSEED to get 50% off the Meet the Star Races course. And we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, Jenna, that was amazing. I was just sitting here like, I needed to run out. I was like, I can't go yet. I have to listen. I have to listen. I didn't want to miss a word of it. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
being here today and sharing. And, I got really excited when you were talking about the fact that that once the ascension occurs, or that you leave this form, that you'll be going back to your star family, you know because I came from a collective.
Yeah,
They have told me that when I leave, I will go back and
yeah.
join in and be part of my collective. And so, it's exciting to know that we're on mission and that we're here, really to participate in this phenomenal time on this planet. And I
Yeah.
loved hearing how you are bringing your aspects and your offerings and really your soul mission, as well as the other lady's soul mission, into everything that you're doing. And it's also, I loved watching your presentation and seeing all the beautiful, it's, there's just so many frequencies of the divine energy that's
Yeah.
in there. Did you
You
notice that,
can
Joan?
see
And
some
of
of the
course, the
time.
shamanism, near and dear and deep to my heart. That's,
Yeah.
the foundation of my practices as well. So I loved that, and the beautiful moon meditation. And I know we do have a question. Um, says, okay, this is from Devi, and she said she's being guided to prompt you to talk about activating awakening star ancestry, ancient DNA via the multidimensional dormant gene codes.
Mm, good question. So it's a process. What we talked about around doing your meditation work. Meditation is a huge part of the process, and sacred geometry can help with that. Meditation helps us access that state of consciousness where those memories can unlock. And as we're doing that meditation process, generally what's going to come up first, if we haven't addressed it, is the shadow stuff that we're carrying, right? And so then we've got to clear that, work through that first, and then we will start to receive more information about who we really are. So it is a process. It doesn't all just activate at once. If it did, that would be hugely overwhelming for us. So it's good that it doesn't. But do all of those practices. Past life regression can help, right? Because you can get both access to memories and go through a healing process in the same space and time. And then do some deeper guided meditations, like what we offer on our website. We have quantum journeys that are shamanic practices, shamanic meditations that guide you to the upper world or the lower world. The lower world is where we access our wounds and some of the shadow stuff that's living in our subconscious that we want to bring light to and clear out. It's where we can access gifts that maybe we didn't know we had. And when we journey to the upper world, we can connect more with our celestial team. We can connect with our cosmic, support system. And when we do some of that work, that can also start to activate those memories. And all of those practices are activating new genetic expression, new DNA slowly over time. And that just builds and builds and builds to a point where then, boom, you're unlocking new information. And essentially what is happening in that process is, you have an energy field as well, right? We talk about DNA, but you have an energy field, and all of the information of your soul is living in that energy field. And that energy field gets distorted by past life wounds, current life wounds, and traumas. And when that distortion occurs, it loses its perfect geometrical structure, right? So as we're doing all this work and clearing, that distortion, our field is returning to its perfect geometrical shape. When that happens, that is synchronizing with the universal geometry in a way that is allowing our soul to access new information. So that's like a little more, kind of advanced explanation of what's happening in that process. But just trust the process. Trust that the right memories and information will come through at the right time. And it's not necessary for us to know every little piece of who we've been and where we've been. It's only necessary for us to know enough to fulfill our mission and our life purpose in this life. The rest is just extra, and it can be fun, but it's not totally necessary. So, sometimes we also I did for a long time, I got kind of hung up on, why am I not accessing more right now? Sometimes like there's also just a limit to how much we're going to access in this life. And that's okay too. So just trust the process.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's see. I just see some wonderful wows and wows for you in here in the chat. I just wanted to check and see if there were any questions. But, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is, as we talk more and more about disclosure, there's a great number of people that spiritually are feeling very excited. And even though they're on the spiritual path, they're starting to feel all of this trepidation. And I'm going to assume that when you're talking about how people, drop into meditation and utilizing these tools that you've already offered, that some of that fear can start to dissipate as well. Do you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think anytime we're going through big change, it's natural to feel some of that trepidation, even if you are on the spiritual path, and even if you have done a lot of your shadow work, right? Like, no matter how much of that we've done, we're constantly going to be reaching new levels that present new challenges, right? And collectively, we're going to be reaching a new level that's going to present a new challenge with this disclosure. And there's a lot of different reasons we can feel trepidation around that, right? Like, how are others going to react? How is that going to change our daily lives? There's so much, right? That we can get into this kind of what if space around. And in the Masters of Manifestation course, we actually talk about this, right? How it's so easy to go down the what if train of thought, right? To a negative place, to all those more less ideal what ifs, and how we can shift and reframe our mindset to, okay, well, what if this bad thing happens, but what if this really amazing thing actually happens, right? Like, what if, the government announces it and humanity's like, thank God you finally said something. Let's get to work changing things. Let's accept some help from the ETs. Let's change, all of our energy systems and make things sustainable and clean up the oceans. And like, what if that happened instead? That would be amazing, right? So it's just about constantly doing that reframing. And no matter where we're at on the journey, like we're going to have moments of, going 2 steps forward and 1 step back on some of that. And it's just kind of integrating in those practices again, right? Coming back to them, remembering that no matter what challenges we face, we're just going to move through them, even if they're hard, even if they're not ideal. It's what we do. We move through them and we get to the other side, and then we can make different choices and have different experiences. But I would recommend, when you're in those moments of, oh, what's going to happen? What if this happens? Just start going down the path of all the most amazing things that can happen, right? And now, we have to hold space for, preparation for all possibilities, but I prefer to do that reframing and not let myself stay stuck in a place of worry, too much. Because also, most of the time when we've been worrying about something, has it happened? Has it come true? Not all the time. Most of the time it doesn't, So I think like that's a good thing to remember too.
Beautiful. And then I just have to ask, can you give us a sneak peek about your Divine Feminine talk?
Yeah.
For April?
Yeah. So this really is about remembering our history. So we're going to be talking a lot about our ancient history. We're going to be talking about the times in our history where we had matriarchal cultures before our modern history and before the written record of our history got a little distorted, right? So we, in the last couple of decades, essentially have been able to reconnect the dots on so much information about how we used to live in our ancient times and how many indigenous cultures on our planet have lived. And there has been a process of honoring the feminine and honoring the life-giving qualities of the feminine and the harmonizing qualities of the feminine. And in our ancient cultures, the feminine used to lead. We used to have more women in leadership positions. And then humanity went through some dark times and things got a little distorted, and, power, became a thing, and money became a thing. And, those are all, driven by, the desire for that is driven by, some of the more masculine qualities. And when we get out of balance, that's what happens, right? So it's all about remembering what is possible when we are in a state of perfect balance. And it's about honoring the qualities of the masculine and the feminine equally, and learning how they play off of each other in a way where we can utilize the best of both to create an ideal reality for us all. So it's really about remembering where we once were, and utilizing this kind of rewriting of our history, and doing some very deep healing work, which we'll go into a much deeper level on in this talk next year. But this really is about understanding where we're out of balance, between masculine and feminine energies. And, we talk about that on a societal and political level a lot, but we don't talk about it on an energetic level and on an emotional level enough. And we don't talk about it from a historical standpoint enough. So we're going to talk about those things in a deeper way.
Beautiful. Well, thanks. Hey, before I ask you to give some final or closing comments, Neil or Joan or Alan, do you have any questions for Jenna?
Jenna, first of all, I loved your presentation. And I think one of the things I love is that you're so clear on how to help other people go through that process of awakening, that process of, oh my God, something is happening. And this process of remembering, I think that's what the Galactic Alliance is about, that we step into that state of remembering, because the more of us that remember, it seems to create a vibrational frequency that allows more people to remember.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it allows more people to own their truth, and more people to own their power and to come back into their strength. And it allows us to do all that work we were talking about, right? Because it's hard to do that alone. So we've got to talk about these things and remember together. Yeah.
And I guess what I'm feeling is that you've been going through even more. Like, I know that with working with Sheila, I started to realize that I needed more activations and awakenings, and I had other new levels to come through, and my work is changing. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God, Jenna's achieving or stepping into new plateaus, new levels, because I feel like your work is completely opening up to a much higher level, much higher wisdom.
Thank you. Well, I think, that's the process we go through, right? It's like, if we're really, deep on the journey and invested in our healing process, invested in, the wisdom and in truly integrating it. Yeah. Like we are just going to continue to grow and expand. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And like I said, I do this for everyone out there. I want us to all have a safe place to be. And I just so appreciate, Sheila's work as well. And, what Alan and Neil, provide through New Realities and Pearl to Ascension. We've got such an amazing community here, and set of resources, for people.
Oh.
So no one
to give you
alone anymore.
I can't wait to give you a big super hug in person. I realize I still haven't met you in person. I'll see you in Sedona in March, but
I know.
Big hugs, guys. That's why I want everyone to come to the conference. It's because I feel the need to physically connect.
Yeah.
Even though we're in the extraterrestrial, celestial realms, this human part of us still loves this kind of contact. So I so appreciate you. Thank you for being a sponsor, both you and Sheila. And always showing up.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate it. And thank you everyone for being together today. It's so fun to connect with all of you. And